Hello, my name is Kristen and this is Kristen Craves Books. So another month has come and gone, and in my mind summer is over. September 1st marks fall for me. I know some people disagree, but I know many of you love fall as much as I do, and I'm so ready for all things fall. So you will see me reading a lot of spooky, atmospheric thrillers, maybe darker historical fiction, and more fantasy all through September and October. And I plan to vlog every week in September at least, so look out for those. But I managed to read 12 books in August. I'm in such a September mindset right now, but 12 books in August, a mix of genres, I think around 4,800 pages, which is amazing. And I'm going to share them all with you in order from my least favorite to my most favorite book of the month. But I didn't hate any of these. I actually had a great reading month. I think my lowest rated book was a 3-star, so that's incredible. So the first one is actually one that I listened to on audiobook, and it was a buddy read. And my buddy reads always end up being a little bit higher rated than probably what they deserve because of the discussion that I can have with this group chat on Instagram. And I seem to get more out of the experience of reading it that way, and I take other people's opinions on. So that book is God and Monsters by Shelby Murhan. And this is the 3rd book in the Serpent and Dove series, and I have read every book in this series with this group. And we loved the first one, Serpent and Dove. Really didn't like the second one, Blood and Honey, and I'm neutral on the 3rd one, Gods and Monsters. I thought it was an interesting ending. This is one of those cases where the first book did so well that what was supposed to be a duology became a trilogy, and you could tell the middle book was filler, and then she kind of got lost in the 3rd one because you're trying to make up more story, and these are chunky books. I think this one was, I know they're all over 500 pages. So I can't tell you too much about this one. It did have a satisfying ending. I thought the banter between the two characters was better than it was in the 2nd book. I cried during the epilogue, I teared up, so that'll tell you I was connected to it. But the first book is about the forced marriage between a witch and a witch hunter. He obviously doesn't know that she's a witch when they are forced to get married, and that's really the gist of it. It's hate to love, great banter. Then there's actually a lot of twists and turns as the series goes on. Some of my favorite side characters, Angel from that series is one of my favorite characters of all time. He's such a cinnamon roll. So yeah, I know those books are hit and miss, but I thought they were fun. I'm glad that I read the entire trilogy because I'm so bad at finishing series. But yeah, so that was my least favorite book of the month, but it was still a solid read. I gave it 3 stars. The next one is one that I believe is going to be out by the time I post this video, and that is Slow Fire Burning by Paula Hawkins. Libro FM was kind enough to send me an ALC of that one, and I listened to it right away because I like Paula Hawkins. I liked A Girl on the Train when it first came out. I actually preferred Into the Water, which I know not a lot of people loved, and then this one was narrated, the audiobook was narrated by Rosamund Pike, who you might know. She was the lead actress in Gone Girl, and she played Jane in my favorite adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, the 2005 adaptation. Don't fight me in the comments, that is the best adaptation, and she's just a perfect narrator. I would listen to any book that she narrates, so she really made that a special book to listen to, so I recommend reading it that way. And I thought that this book, A Slow Fire Burning, was a good mix of her first two. It had some of the thrills of A Girl on the Train, but all the character development and many characters that you're following of her 2nd book, Into the Water. And it's really a simple premise. A man is found dead on his houseboat, which is a fun setting. And then there are 3 women that he's connected to, a next door neighbor, the last woman that saw him alive, and his aunt. So we get all 3 of their perspectives and maybe why they would want this person dead, and then we get flashbacks to their backgrounds. And there's some that are I was more invested in than others. I believe it was Laura, I believe that was her name, that last woman to see him alive. She had an interesting background. I really felt connected to her, but some of it was predictable. I saw some of the plot twists coming, but I thought it was an enjoyable read, and I think Paula Hawkins fans will be happy with that one. And then the next book is actually one that I got in my Once Upon a Book Club book box, and I filmed a video that I don't think I've posted that yet. So that's going to go up after this one, but I have a vlog reading this book, so if you want to know more about details, look forward to that. But that is Reset, and this is by Serena Dahlin, and this is such an underrated book. I don't see anybody talk about this unless they got this book box, which is incredible. And I love the tagline on it here. It says, "Can you love someone you don't remember?" And really that sums up the premise of this book. It is called a utopian romance, which I've never read before. I've never even heard of that. I didn't know that was a genre, and I actually really liked it. I thought the characters in here had great chemistry. So the whole premise of this book is that it's set in an oasis in the Mojave Desert, and the rest of the world is no longer there. Or so they think. And every 4 years, the government resets everybody's minds. They get a new name, a new job, move somewhere else. They forget everything from the last 4 years, and they call that tabula rasa, a blank slate. But some characters in here are having dreams of their past lives, and it's really affecting them in their current life. And this tackles a lot of philosophical, psychological questions, which the author does have a background in, so that was interesting. And we're following a woman who is not looking for romance because she doesn't see the point in it, but then she might reconnect with somebody from a past life who is having dreams about her. So I thought they had great chemistry. I did think some of the pacing was not great. It dragged a little bit in the middle, and there was a little bit of predictability in this one as well, but I was really satisfied with the ending. I thought it ended in the only way that it really could, and I thought it was really powerful, and what an interesting premise. So if you're into utopian sci-fi, check this one out. It's so underrated. And then I listened to another book that was sent to me by Libro FM, and that is Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. And I really thought I would have had this book higher on my list because I adore Sally Rooney, one of my favorite authors. I know her stuff is so hit and miss for people, but Normal People and Conversations with Friends are two of my favorite books ever. And while I liked her newest one, it wasn't my favorite. I just don't think I related to it as much. The conversations that were had in here just weren't something I personally connected with. And I do think with her books you have to relate to the characters in some ways to get it. And I just don't think that this book was written for somebody like me, and that's completely valid. I think so many people are going to love this, and it's actually one of those books I think once more people read it, I talk about it with people, I see other people reviews, I might look at it in a different way. So I'm really excited for this to come out and for everybody to read it. And then we have another fun one, and that is Battle Royal by Lucy Parker. And I've never read anything by this author before, but now I want to read more because this was a fun one. It is a romance, a very quick read, and this is like as if Paul Hollywood from the Great British Bake Off dated one of the contestants after the show was over and she became a judge. So it's very like Grumpy Sunshine romance. They're both bakers, but they bake very differently. He is more traditional, she's more fun, and she'll try new things. And they're also competing to bake the royal wedding cake, and then they had feelings for each other. There's lots of fun side plots in here as well, maybe too much going on, but there's a great setup for a second companion book where we follow the main guy's sister pet, and she was actually my favorite character in the book. But yeah, great chemistry, great banter. Loved the Great British Bake Off setting. We got some behind the scenes into the show because they were both judges, and I just thought it was really fun. You could listen to that or read that in a day or two, and I highly recommend it. I know I've talked a lot about Libro FM in this video, but this is the last one. I was sent this ALC from Libro FM, and I'm so excited to get this one. It is Apples Never Fall by Leanne Moriarty. It is her newest book, and if you like Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which I loved, I think you're gonna like this one. There's interesting parallels between the two. They both follow complicated families, definitely family dramas. They both have 4 siblings, and we're following them and their relationships with one another. And their siblings are athletic in both books. In Malibu Rising, they're surfers. In this one, they play tennis. And what happens in Apples Never Fall is that the mother has gone missing, and 2 of the siblings believe that their father is involved somehow, and 2 of them don't. So it's about their disagreements, them trying to find their mom. And then we also get flashbacks to before their mom went missing, and an interesting person that comes into their parents' lives, and secrets are revealed. It's really more of a family drama than a mystery. It doesn't have the big wow moments that Big Little Lies has, but I actually like this one better because I'm more of a family drama kind of person. And I think Leanne Moriarty fans are gonna love this one. I know her last book wasn't well received, but I have a feeling this one's gonna be a hit for a lot of people. And then we have a book that could have either been in the middle of my list, at the bottom of my list, or at the top of my list. Every day my feelings about this book change, and that is All's Well by Mona Awad. And I don't even know how to explain this book to you or my feelings about it. It is so strange, and I think that's why I love it. If you like weird books, this is the ultimate weird book. It is called horror, I believe. People are calling this horror. I wouldn't say it's horror. It's dark, magical realism, mystery. I don't know how. There's some fantasy elements, but you never quite understand them. So we're following a woman, and I already forget, oh no, I don't forget her name because the one guy says it so many times. Her name's Miranda, and she has chronic illness, and I think that is really what makes this book so special, is the way that Mona Awad writes a character with chronic pain and how they are treated by others, how they're perceived by others. She has an invisible disability, so a lot of people don't believe her. They tell her it's all in her head, and it's just, if you have chronic illness, y'all, either this might be triggering for you, or you're gonna really connect with it, because it's just such a theme throughout the book, and you could almost feel it, and it was so frustrating and stressful. I was really rooting for her, even when things all blew up in her face and she was making the greatest choices. I was still rooting for her. And she used to be an actor, and then something happened. She now has chronic pain, so she became a professor and a theater director at a university, and they always put on Shakespeare's plays, hence the title All's Well that ends well. And her students want to do Macbeth. She wants to do All's Well that ends well, and the story really plays out from there. I can't tell you much more about it other than that. I haven't read All's Well that ends well, but I think that Mona Awad does a great job at showing you how this story parallels that one. So I thought that this was actually quite brilliant, and I really do want to read Bunny by her because I know a lot of people love it. But yeah, weird book, and not one I would universally recommend, but if you think you would like it, I would definitely read an excerpt of it on Goodreads or on Amazon or something like that to see if you can get into it. But yeah, I really liked it. Next we have The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss. And I actually have a reading vlog where I read this book, so you can get more of my thoughts as I'm reading it. If you want to watch that, I'll link it above and below. And I love this. If you loved Sherlock Holmes as much as I do, you have to read this. I didn't realize Sherlock Holmes and Watson were going to be such big characters in here. Really, we're following Mary Jekyll, who is Dr. Jekyll's daughter, and she forms actually like a fun relationship with, it's a working relationship with Sherlock Holmes, and they have great banter and they're very similar. And she discovers some things about her father's past that are not so great, and she is going around trying to find all the daughters of other famous characters from literature. So obviously Dr. Hyde's daughter's in here, Justine Frankenstein is in here, Catherine Moreau. So like all these classic characters from literature, their daughters, and they're all being experimented on. You're really trying to figure out what's happening here, and the atmosphere is just great. The writing's fantastic, but really the found family in here is what makes it special. All the women in here really form such strong bonds, and they are completely different from one another, but it's fun to see. And I love the way that Theodora Goss wrote this. It's as if the Catherine Moreau is the author of this book, and she's getting insights and input from everybody else, and she's just getting annoyed with them. So instead of just writing what they want her to write, she just writes exactly what they say. She breaks the fourth wall and says, okay, this is what Justine says, and this is what Mary's telling me, and it's just so funny. I can't really explain it. You just have to read it for yourself, and I cannot wait to continue on with the series. Then we have a book that really took me by surprise. I had no idea I was going to fall in love with this book as much as I did, and that is Fireborn, and this is by Rosaria Munda, and this is the first book in a series. I don't need to be starting so many series. I just can't help myself. And this is a book about dragons, and I have not read a lot of fantasy about dragons, so leave me your recommendations down below. And the politics in this book is what makes it so special, and actually the author has a background in politics. I believe she graduated from Princeton in political science, and that really comes through in here because the world building, the politics, the history behind everything in here is something I continue to think about. And this was such a great first book in the series. We're following two perspectives. One of them is from the past, political system, the past rulers, but nobody knows that he's from that family. And then one of them is somebody who was able to rise after the rebellion. And they are both competing to be the lead of these dragon riders. And I don't want to tell you too much, but there is competition in here. It has everything that you would want in a dragon book. I do wish there was a bit more dragons, but I had so much fun with this. So many great side characters, a really slow burn romance. And I just cannot wait to see where the story goes. It really did end in an interesting way, so I'll be continuing on with this soon. And then I listened to Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby, and wow, everybody's talking about this book, and for a reason. It's fantastic, especially on audio. I loved it on audio. And this is following two characters who could not be more different, but actually they do have more in common than you would think on the surface, and that their names are Ike and Buddy Lee. And their sons were married to one another and they are murdered. So Buddy Lee and Ike are both ex-cons and they don't trust the police. The police are not doing enough, so they decide to get together and get revenge from their sons, who they did not treat very well when they were alive, which is a trope that should be discussed another day, where somebody has to pass away in order for you to appreciate them. But that's really what this book is about, and it's a lot more graphic and gory than I was expecting, but it is so great. The way these two interact, they learn from one another. I love that Ike calls Buddy Lee out on his comments. They have great conversations, and the ending, I was crying like a baby. I was not expecting that at all. It's just beautiful. It's such a good book, and beautiful might not be the right word. It's beautiful in some ways. It's graphic in a lot of other ways. It's thought-provoking. It's everything. And I want to read S.A. Cosby's first book, or other book that was popular. I think it came out last year, Blacktop Wasteland, I believe it's called. That's high priority for me because the writing in this was fantastic. All right, two more. I'm losing my voice over here. The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. Any other month, this would have been my favorite book of the month because I adore Kazuo Ishiguro. I love his writing. He wrote my favorite book of all time. I say this all the time, Never Let Me Go. Claire and the Sun, one of my favorite books of the year. Now this is up here, so I just adore him. And this is so much different than the other two books of his that I've read, because those ones have sci-fi elements and this one is just a human story. On the surface, it's just about a butler who is taking some time off, and he's going to talk to and meet up with somebody who used to work at the same residence that he's at. But along the journey, he meets people. He's really reflecting on his time as a butler, his time with his father, and his person he used to work for, and I think really sorting out his feelings about that man, because this takes place before the war and then after the war, I believe. So there's some interesting conversations there, and he's grappling with some stuff, and it was actually just really beautiful. What Kazuo Ishiguro does so well is he makes you look at humanity in a different way, and he leaves you thinking about his books long after you're finished with them. And then I did actually watch the movie adaptation when I finished this. It is with Anthony Hopkins and Emma Thompson and a young Hugh Grant. He doesn't have a big part, but he is in it, and Christopher Reeves. And I thought it was a fantastic adaptation. I didn't know that was a movie. I'd never heard of that movie before, and has some of my favorite actors in it. And I thought it was really well done. Yeah, it won't be a book for everyone because it is a bit meandering, and it's just really about one man's life and his reflections, but I was moved by it. The last one, and no surprise here, Redemptor by Jordan Ifueko. Ray Bear was one of my favorite books of last year. I talk about Ray Bear constantly, all the time. Sometimes I have to hold back because I feel like I'm talking about it too much. And this was my most anticipated book of the year, and I loved it. I might have actually liked this more than Ray Bear because we get to know Teresai even more here. There's some side characters introduced in this book that I connected with instantly, made me emotional, twists and turns. I love that we go to the underworld in here. I was satisfied with the ending, loved everything about it. The found family is even stronger in this one because this is many years later. They know each other better. Just beautiful. Everything about this is beautiful. So the first book is about Teresai, who is raised in isolation, and her mother has this quest for her where she has to go kill the emperor. And in this world, the Emperor is a Ray bearer, and he has to form a council of other people who are all connected through rays. They have to love each other. Then they can form this connection, and they can share each other's thoughts, feelings. They affect each other emotionally, and they actually cannot be away from each other for very long because they start to get ill. And Terry Sai becomes part of the Emperor Dao's council and grapples with her love for him, her duty to her mother, and it all really goes from there. It's so incredibly done. I am in awe of Jordan Fueco, and I'm actually sad that this was only a duology, even though it's brilliant. I wouldn't change anything about it, and I'm excited to see what Jordan Fueco writes next, because this is a masterpiece to me, my favorite duology ever. So I did it. That is it. Those are the 12 books that I read and listened to in August. I have so many great books that I want to get to in September, so I will catch up with you soon. Talk to you later. Bye for now.